We are under the original weight of this bike before I put anything on it. So if you tuned into the last episode of my 2022 BMX bike build, you'll have seen that it was all about the titanium. Cranks, seat post clamp, stem bolts, axle bolts in the front, lightening this thing up, and then you'll have seen the weight that it came down to from the previous weight at the end of that video. And you'll know that I kind of wanted to try and get it a little bit closer to the weight of my normal everyday bike. And to do that, I've got a couple more tricks up my sleeve, and if both of those don't help it very much, we're going to go even further with it potentially. So to start off, let's talk about what we're going to do today. First of all, we're going to take the metal hub guard off of this thing and put on a plastic hub guard. I've been riding a plastic guard on my Alienation Venus hub since about April, June time. No, I put it on my brand new bike in June. So I've been riding it since June and it's held up great, honestly. Much better than I would have ever expected. So I'm finally going to go away from this, who knows, 10-year-old, I don't even know how old, Daily Grind Infinity hub guard. It was like the first one that they came out with. I'm going to finally stop using that and throw on this BSD plastic guard that came with the BSD Revolution when I got it. And I'm also going to be replacing the rear tire with this Alienation Prowler 2.25 folding tire, which I think is a bit lighter than the non-folding tire that I have here. So both of these things are centered around the rear of this bike. Without any further delay, let's just go ahead and take off the back tire, since that's what we're going to need to do anyways. Hopefully I didn't crank down on it so hard that I'm not. Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. Gotcha. So, one thing about this is that I already set up my brakes for exactly where my rim was at. So that's kind of a bummer that I may end up having to redo my brake pads. There's no getting around it. I put my wheel on too tight. So I guess since I'm taking this tire off anyway, I'm going to let the air out now. And naturally, I just put my chain and everything on too in the last video where I was putting these cranks on, but it has to be done. We've got to do this. We don't have to do this. And honestly, I've never cared about weight before, but this feels like a reasonable thing to care about because this rear wheel and tire are much heavier than the one that are on the bike that I ride every day. And what I want is consistency so that these bikes are identical other than the forks with the front brakes on them. So we got this thing off of here. I'm going to relocate down and we'll get the tire off, change the hub guard. And first, let's take off this hub guard. This is like a literal changing of the guard here. I have ridden this hub guard on my bike. I mean, I haven't been riding it on the bike I ride now, but I've had this on my bike or on a bike for the better part of 10 years at this point. I have grinded this thing. I'm pretty sure I bent it back. Done a lot of stuff to this hub guard. And I mean, you can tell just by looking at it, it definitely has seen its time on the bike. I mean, look at that. It used to be black. You can see how bent and misformed it is. It's been a good hub guard. There's honestly no complaints from me there. Been on multiple bikes, but it's time for a change. And that change is just a hub guard that you literally just go and boom. Hub guard is on, and I can take it off that quickly just to do something real quick so I can feel how much that weighs. Oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely a noticeable difference there. So there's that. Now that is done. So let's take off this tire. I guess I should put the peg back on here real quickly. Oh, these pegs are actually heavier too than the ones that are on my bike now. That is a significant weight difference as well. Interesting. So there may be something coming for that as well. I don't know when. I'm not going to worry about it yet, but there's definitely something coming in the way of changing out some peg stuff. So, oh cow. I don't even remember the last time I popped a tire on this rim. It was a while ago, that's for sure. Because I rode it at the trails for all summer, which means, I don't normally pop tires at the trails, especially when I have these thicker Odyssey tires that you just don't have to worry about it as much. Break the bead all the way around. You can do it without taking the or using a tire lever. Well, why bother if it's going to be that easy? There we go. All right, man, I don't remember the last time I had this thing as just a wheel. Jeez, that's how, yeah, the tube's sticking to the inside of the tire. That's funny. All right, this is of course the sample, or one of the samples of the Alienation Prowler 2.25 tire with the micro knurling on it. This is what I have on my bike currently. There's also a thicker version of this in the works. This tube seems bigger than the tire. All right, we'll wait. All right, there may be a time lapse here. That was the hardest tire I've had to put on since the last tire that I had to put on. Now, a concern that I do have for this is that the dishing will be incorrect on this, because every time that I dished this wheel, I did so with the intent of having that extra hub guard taking up more axle. Without that, it may be off a little bit. I don't know yet. Now's probably the best time to check it, honestly. So I actually am going to do that before we do anything, because it's already off, and taking it off again later just doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to grab the wheel dishing tool and we'll be right back. And if you've never seen this before, this is the WAG 4 from Park Tool. This is a way to test how the dishing on your wheel is, wheel alignment guide. And you can do this with everything still on it. Basically, the way this works is that it has fixed points on your rim, and then a measuring area right here that you adjust so that it is on your cone spacer or jam nut, and then that is how you tell whether or not your wheel is dished. And I'll show you in just a second. We've got to get this one correct, and I can't do it in a way that I can show you at the same time. But I can explain it while I'm doing it. So I'm putting the blocks on the rim, making sure that they're sitting flat on the rim, and then I'm going to push the gauge down, or the, yeah, I guess you'd call that a gauge. And I'm going to tighten it so that when I flip this over, if this hub is exactly centered in this rim, it will line up perfectly with the one on this side. And I can't really do it with the peg on there, so I got to take that off first. So now that I line this up, I can see that it is actually off just a little bit. And this is something that you may not care about, but what it can affect is whether or not your wheel is facing straight on your bike. If you have your dishing off and your rim and your hub aren't centered with each other, meaning that your rim is off to one side and you put it into your rear dropouts, it means that in order to have your rim be centered in your frame and your wheel be centered in your frame, you're going to have to pull it to one side, which if it's off-centered on your hub, meaning that it's not in the center of your frame, and you pull it to one side, you're going to be going one side or the other, making your rim not roll straight, which maybe you care about, maybe you don't. This is definitely something that I care about because brakes, and I just like my bike feeling as good as it possibly can. So I'm actually gonna fix this real quick using the Park Tool TS8. I'm just gonna pull one side over super quick. It's very easy to do, and you just have to think about it logically. Park Tool spoke wrench. So if it needs to come this way, it's because it's too far that way, then we tighten all of the spokes on the side that it needs to go towards. I'm going to do that evenly all the way around. And we are officially good to go. So I can put the peg back on here. It was a very simple process to do that. It always is, but sometimes it can be confusing. It's simple when you break it down, but it can be confusing. That's what I want to say with it. That being said though, we're good to go with it. I'm going to pop this back into the frame. And that means that when I tighten everything down now, my wheel should be straight in my dropouts with it centered, because everything is centered on the bike, which means that you'll have a better time. If your wheel dishing's off, you're gonna have a bad time. Now I can put air into this back tire. Now let's get this rim tightened down into the dropouts. So because I dished it, it should tighten centered. Tighten this down. I may have to do some brake adjustment, but that is to be expected here. The important thing to test right now is the weight of the bike, because that's the whole purpose of this, right? We're being weight conscious all of a sudden after 15 years of never caring about weight. Feels weird. So, bike as it was with just front brakes and that stuff added was 28 pounds. Add all the titanium, 27 pounds, 9 ounces. Swap out metal hub guard and non-folding tire for folding tire in the rear and plastic hub guard, and we get no way. There's no way that that was almost a pound. There's no freaking way. I don't believe that. This is how I weighed it every other time. Let's see what it does. 27 pounds. So that means we lost another half a pound. So a full pound between titanium and folding tire in the rear with plastic hub guard. We're still a little less than 2 pounds off from my other bike. And actually, we've got one last trick up our sleeves for this video. And that one last hoorah for this video is another folding tire. You probably could have guessed it, but it's something that we can use to lighten up the bike even further, because this is definitely a non-folding tire, and you saw the difference that it made to add a single folding tire to the back with that plastic hub guard. So this is an an Odyssey Aitken Path K-Lite folding tire. It's actually the second tire that I had on my new bike before I put on the first Prowler 225. So here's this, and you guessed it, yes, we have to take off the front wheel that we literally just got done putting these bolts into. There's some other measures we can take to lighten things up in the future, but this is going to be our best start for now. So naturally, I have to tighten in everything that I've already done so I can get this tire out of the front brake mounts, or front brakes. I like this Sunday Current V1 tire that I had on here, but it just isn't light enough, I guess. I never, ever thought that I was going to be someone who cared about this kind of thing. I probably already mentioned that, but when you're going to swap back and forth between two bikes, it's probably best that they are as similar as they can possibly be. This should come out. There we go. These steel bead tires are definitely, or not definitely, are usually easier to take off. So let's just time lapse through this to the part where we have the tire on the bike. All right, back in the dropouts before we put air in it. Or that. Did it just pop itself? I think this tube just popped itself. I didn't do anything. You watched that happen. Well, guess who gets to go through this process all over again? I guess once again, we will cut to when this is all done. Great. And we finally have it done. I tell you, I struggle so much sometimes. I got it all put back together, looked down and realized my tire tread's backwards. So I had to take it apart for a second time, maybe even a third. I can't even remember at this point. But we got it all together. So now the last thing to do is to weigh it again and see where we're at from that 28 pounds even. And here we are, ready for the final weight on the bike. In the scale, zeroed out. Here we go. We went from 28 pounds even to 27.9 to 27.1 or something like that. I can't remember. It was in the video. So let's see what we get here. No way. Is it really that much lighter already? We are under the original weight of this bike before I put anything on it. We're within 1.5 pounds of the bike that I ride on a daily basis. So I think if we do a couple small changes here, we can lighten it up to get it pretty dang close to the bike that I ride every day. That is awesome. 26 pounds, 7 ounces. I forgot to make a guess. Doesn't matter. This bike is now close enough that I'm stoked to ride them both simultaneously, basically. I am stoked. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a little bit more simple of an episode this time, but very, very effective. We lost a whole pound, over a pound. It was 27.9. Yeah, we lost over a pound from just the tires and the hub guard alone, and it's kind of a lesson in like saving weight on your bike. At this point, things that I could do to save weight are kind of here and there, and like cutting my seat posts and stuff like that, and like I'm not that crazy concerned with it. So if I get some different pegs on there, we'll lose a little bit more weight even yet, and that will probably make the difference to get it to pretty much the same as my other bike. So I hope you guys are enjoying this series. There is more coming. We are not done yet. Super stoked. And also the other bike coming as well. So if you guys are excited about this, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know your favorite part that I've put on this thing so far, or if you have any questions about anything that I have done, and I'm happy to answer them. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, and you're new here or you haven't yet, I hope it was enough that you'll hit that subscribe button down below so we can see you tomorrow for another video. I'm going to go ride this thing tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.